Well, with us right now are two students from UCI, the Claire Trevor School of the Arts. I'd like to welcome Brianna Finnell. Nice to meet you. And Jake Tully. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And these two folks are in a production, Our Town, which you certainly know. I think most people know that. But this is a 3-act opera, and that's the part that really surprised me. I had never heard of Our Town as an opera before, so this is something brand new to me. So first, you're both in that realm, opera students, and I explained to them, or I asked them before we came back, I was asking how popular is that now? Because eventually you're going to be moving on to a graduate school, and you may do that one day. So first of all, let me ask Brianna first. How did you get into the opera part of music?
Okay.
To me, that's unusual nowadays, but you're telling me it's not.
Well, I actually came from Palm Springs, and I went to the community college, College of the Desert, and I took a choir class just for the fun of it. I loved singing, and then the teacher was like, wow, you have potential, you should be a music major. And then I was like, oh, you have to sing classical music though? Like, I don't know. And I gave it a chance because I knew that the technique was good for the voice, and I was like, let's just try it. And my voice just clung to it, like it just wanted to just do these things, and that's how I got into it. And then you start getting into like all these beautiful music and beautiful operas, beautiful art songs. Like it's there's so much music out there that is undiscovered. And
yeah, exactly.
Like the more I go into it, the more I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I just keep finding such beautiful work. So it's something that I think a lot of young people aren't used to hearing. But
yeah, Jake, what about you? Is it the same kind of thing?
I had been singing my whole life. Choir was the big thing that got me to go towards classical. I was blessed to go to a high school that really did a lot of funding in their music and let their kids have like a wonderful education in classical spheres. And I was kind of torn between whether I wanted to continue classical or keep writing music and performing. So I knew that if I go to college for voice, I'll ultimately be able to make both of those goals like a better viable, I guess, road to take.
Yeah, exactly.
But I ended up falling in love with opera. I mean, there's so much to it, and the music behind it, and how, the type of music that it's, I guess, given inspiration to. Other composers have taken the melodies of Italian opera and turned it into giant symphonies and different traditions out of the instrumental tradition, and I'm just learning about all of that. Really, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
That's fantastic. And you just mentioned Italian opera, and that's what I want to ask about. Our Town here obviously isn't an Italian opera, but in your realm that you're learning over the last several years getting into opera, are you learning both the traditional, got to know Italian and Latin and all that, and then modern opera where we're taking shows like Our Town and turning it into a musical production? Is that kind of what you're finding? You're doing both?
There's similarities and differences between Our Town and traditional Italian opera. Similarity is voice production.
Right.
We're not changing our technique to sing this music. And the differences is probably the actual music writing style. The music for Our Town is very angular, very modern, constant tempo changes, constant musical changes, where Italian opera is very like form-based, and you kind of hear like the same melody come back, like ritornello. You hear the same, it's very familiar, where this one, you're gonna always be hearing something new every 10 minutes.
So with something like this, I would call it more of a modern type opera, but with Our Town, what makes it an opera versus a musical? Does it mean there is no dialogue? Is that what makes it an opera? I mean, in production like this.
That could be a strong argument for that, because there's really only like 3 or 4 spoken lines in the entire opera. It's all music. But I would definitely go more towards the performance aspect, as in a musical, you have dancing, you have acting, you have extravagant staging, to where you are giving a good performance overall in all realms of art. But in opera, there is a strong focus on the music. The music in Our Town is very difficult. I would say it takes good knowledge of music to be able to pull it off right. I would say that on the sides of like acting and dancing, there's no dancing. There's the acting sphere. We do try to delve in and go to the next level with that.
Right.
But we aren't as expected to be super actors as a musical would.
Right, exactly. So you play George, you play Emily. Is this a full cast as well? Okay, so it has all the other characters
yes.
in it as well. But you two are basically the leads in it then. So, are you on stage most of the time then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The whole time, I'm like, by the act three is like just pretty much all me. So I'm like, oh shoot, the pressure's on, you know?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the musical numbers go, you know, you mentioned, you just said how different they could be, and the tempo changes a lot. People hear the word opera, and of course they're thinking, am I going to be able to understand them singing? Will I be able to kind of get into it? Is that what this is? Where it's not like an Italian opera, but with all the singing going it, but a modern type tempo to it, people will be familiar with it as far as the music. They'll be able to like, yeah, okay, I get this.
Yeah, I think the challenge for us is being able to enunciate and having the audience understand. But luckily it is English, so you know that's our native language.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll be able to understand.
Yeah.
The play is super relatable. The characters
Yes, it
are all
is.
relatable. There's comedy, you know, and by the end, I think you'll realize that everything that went down in the first two acts, it'll make more sense by the third act.
Okay, so it follows the play.
Yes.
Then. It hasn't been changed. It's not like he took the name and goes way off course.
It's exactly, he takes some of the exact words from the play and puts it in the opera. So.
And when did this come out? You were telling me just a few years ago.
Yeah, it's very new. It's when you think of opera, you generally think of 17th century, 18th century, but this is 20th, 21st century. This is the West Coast premiere, apparently, so we couldn't find any recordings anywhere of it. So we had to basically go in there blind, learn everything kind of without any basis to go off.
Couldn't find any YouTube videos on it?
No. Not at all.
At least give you a frame of reference of what
Yeah.
this was like.
All we had to get a basis of it was to watch like the Paul Newman movie of it and get like a nice grasp of it, I guess, within the context of the story, but not within the context of the music.
Okay. You know, as far as this realm goes, this opera realm is using modern pieces. Would you also say like the popular show Hamilton and things like that, at least from, I haven't seen it, but what I've seen videos of it, it seems it follows, of course it's more on the line of hip hop and that sort of thing, but it seems very operatic because the story is told primarily through music.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I haven't seen Hamilton live either, but I've listened to some of the stuff, and yeah, it's cool how they do fuse hip hop and like R&B type of styles with the theatrics, and I think that's something that is very new and innovative, and it's really cool to see that happening in theaters. And I think that us as young people doing opera, we kind of bring maybe a fresh perspective to such an old art.
You know, it is an old art, and you know, this isn't, in some cases, this isn't something that's really new in that. You two may not remember this, your parents might, but during the 70s there was a little band called The Who, and they did Tommy, of course. And that was basically, whether you listened to the album or they did produce a movie, it was an opera. It was called an opera at the time. I remember going to see the movie and thinking, you know, I love the music, but I'm going, are they ever going to talk? And of course, a few lines of dialogue, but that was really about it. So this modern version of opera has been with us throughout the decades. Just it changes form, right? So you're a senior, and you're telling me you might take a year off, and then you're going to move on and find another school to go to for your graduate, right? And continuing in this.
Of course.
And you were just mentioning that you also write music.
I do. When I was in high school, it was a really big thing. I played a lot of gigs and a lot of like just, you know, singer-songwriter things. But when I got into college and started working a lot with theory, I was able to start composing some stuff and like arranging stuff for like a cappella setting.
Wow.
And I've actually like one day I want to gain the knowledge to be able to compose an opera. That mixes
fantastic.
mainstream genres with old styles. So when
Yeah.
you hear an opera, but then you start hearing some like elements of hip hop, elements
Yeah,
of dance
yeah.
music, elements of rock. Like you're like, wait, is this an opera? And it kind of makes you redefine like what is an opera and how the public like perceives opera and how they will in the future. Because we have like a whole like amount of people, thousands and thousands of kids going into the college system right now to learn this type of music, that they're not just tethered down to just singing opera. They can sing jazz, they can sing musical theater, they can sing pop, and this opens up completely new doors for a whole
Yeah.
new audience of people that will accept classical as well as pop, as well as mainstream, and creating new styles and new ways of old styles.
Yeah, and you know, let's remember that going back to the classic Italian operas, those were the pop music of their day.
Yeah.
They weren't, you know, they weren't writing anything different than what was popular at the time. What about you, Brandy? You have one more year. You're a junior, right?
Oh, yes. I'm going to finish out next year, just focus on my schoolwork, just try to be involved on campus with performing as much as I can. After I graduate, I'm not, you know, it's a year from now, so
Right.
it's a little hazy, but I'm definitely going to look into grad school programs, and if not grad school, go to LA and just try to make it with like an agent, or you know.
Yeah.
So there's lots of options, and I feel very confident in my skills, and you know, I've been working already in the business a little bit, you know, so, and having my degree will definitely help propel me.
Well, you're at a fantastic school and a great department for sure. All the departments within the School of the Arts is fantastic. I want to tell people that Our Town, a 3-act opera, is going to be taking place. We have it on the screen here, May 12th and 13th. Now, the way this was written here, I wasn't quite sure. It's at 8 o'clock, right? Both performances. Okay, the way it was written here, I wasn't quite sure. So both evening performances is going to be at the beautiful Irvine Barclay Theater. And there are discount tickets for seniors. You can go to arts.uci.edu or call 949-824-2787. And as I said, every time we have people on there from the Claire Trevor, whether they're doing opera or they're doing a stage play, whatever it might be, it's just the quality performances there are fantastic, and I'm sure yours will be no exception.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Good luck to the both of you. And again, Our Town, a 3-act opera, May 12th and 13th at the Irvine Barclay. We'll be right back.